Welcome everyone to the Squid and Ultimate Leaf Fan Show. I'm Mike Wilson, the Ultimate Leafs fan. Joining me as always, my winger Ricky Squid Vive. Squid, things are looking a lot better in Leafland at the end of this past month versus the previous one.
Much, much better. A lot more wins. Team is playing. I think they're playing the best hockey I've seen them play in quite some time, and I mean a complete game defensively, goaltending, all the way down the line. The power plays clicking. Their penalty kill has been pretty hot. So I mean, I can't remember the last time I've seen this team play that well for that length of time. What is it now? 7 or 8 in a row on the road, and
Seven, yeah.
and 9 out of their last 10. I mean, they've been playing pretty good hockey.
14 out of 16. So we did
Yeah.
touch on a couple of subjects, but what else? What do you think the biggest difference is? Outside the obvious that they're playing better, but is it the mindset maybe in the mental game has finally kicked in that they realize they have to do things, maybe just not try to outgun everybody?
Yeah, I think finally it's gotten to the point where they realize that defense wins, and you have to play defense in order to go on the offense. And I think they've kind of battened down the hatches, so to speak, in their own zone, played a lot better defensively, and then out of that comes offensive opportunities. You get out of the zone, and the game of hockey is pretty simple. It's you got to create a 2-on-1 or an odd man situation somewhere on the ice. If you're playing good defense in your zone and you're coming out clean and on the run, the chances are you're going to get an odd man situation somewhere in the offensive zone or neutral zone, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Well, before we get any deeper into that, another thing I'd like to address where I was looking from sort of the psyche or the mindset was the chatter is always centered around what they do over, not what they do over 82 games, but beyond. The interview between Austin Matthews and Gore Miller, which became pretty much went viral and everybody saw this, I thought was a clear indication of the focus this team appears to have now. I mean, for those who didn't hear it, Gord asked Austin if he was sick of hearing about his lack of 5-on-5 scoring. Austin said he really didn't care what they thought concerning the media. Further suggesting he liked to score and be competitive and all those type of things. He didn't know. He said, so I have anything else to say to you. In my view, that's extremely positive moving forward because in our fair city, the white noise can be overwhelming, as you very well know, having experienced it yourself. The fact that he's not even going to address
Yeah.
it, and I'm paraphrasing here, basically just saying, judge me by what happens on the ice, period. I love that.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. It showed me a lot of maturity. That he's come a long way in that part of his game and life, and he's kind of letting it roll off his back. He's not worried about it. And I mean, how many times have I said, number one, as long as I'm happy with how I'm playing, my teammates and my coach, that's all that matters. I don't care what anybody
Yep.
else says or thinks. And he seems to have that mindset now. So it shows a lot of maturity for him in the last year that he's overcome some things, and he's showing that now.
Well, in your day, just picking up on that, we just touched on, you heard a lot of nonsense from the press. And maybe without naming names, but was it always the same guys trying to get a rise out of you? And number two in this, how did you just deal with it?
Well, I mean, like I said, I dealt with it the same way. I didn't care what they said. I really didn't. It didn't affect me. Um, it didn't matter to me what the press or anybody said about how I was playing. It was those three things that I cared about: myself, my teammates, and my coach. If everybody was happy, that's all that mattered. And I didn't give a damn what anybody said in the press, on TV. It didn't matter whatsoever. And
Did,
I believe that's the only way you can play in a market like Toronto
yep.
or probably Montreal as well, is by having that type of attitude towards how you're playing. Because if you can't handle it, I mean, it'll eat away at you. And I think we witnessed that with Marner early in the season, stemming from the playoffs last year and then going into the start of this year. I think you could visibly see that that bothered him. And now he seems to be shedding that, and he's going out, he's having fun, and he's playing the way he's capable of playing.
Well, I was going to say to you, listen, maybe give the listeners an idea of what happens post game at the media. I mean, I know you're saying that, but it sounds much easier to do than it is to execute. To say than to do. I meant to say. You're just coming off a game. You may have lost. You may have made a bad play. You may have made a good play. You may be the adrenaline is just flowing, and all of a sudden you got a mic stuck planted in your face and a barrage of pointed questions directed right at you. I mean, and in a city like this where they're trying to get the jump up all the time, maybe talk about what you guys. I know today, just to take it one step further, where I'm going with this. Today, the players are actually coached on what to say to the media, how to handle the media. They schedule press time after each game. They make certain players available for a certain amount of time. All those type of things to shield them and protect them from just saying something dumb or saying something they don't really mean. Your day was a lot different.
Yeah, there was no protection whatsoever. We were not coached on what to say. Everybody was available because the press came right in the dressing room. Everybody would just come in with their cameras and their notepads and whatever the heck they had, and then they'd go to someone and start asking questions. And I mean, you give them the best answer you can, and that is, if you lost and maybe you made a bad play or the team didn't play well or whatever the case might be, you just say, like, hey, you're not going to win all 80 games. You're going to have bad nights. Tonight was one of those nights, and hopefully we can build off of that and go on to the next one and win the next one. And I don't think there's any other way to look at it. As far as personally, if they ever said anything to me, like maybe, okay, you haven't scored in 4 or 5 games, I said, yeah, but you know what? Sooner or later, it's going to start going in, and when it does, a lot of them are going to go in, and hopefully I can, turn that around and start to help this team win some hockey games.
Well, we got to get some juice out of here, Squid. Like any coach you can think of off the top of your head that you'd like to take back, or maybe you heard from a coach the next day that maybe you shouldn't have said something, or even just jerking around with these guys, telling them something maybe it's just a little bit off the cuff. You didn't really mean it.
None that I can actually like. I mean, I remember a couple of times, like, press would ask you a ridiculous question or one that I thought was ridiculous. And I just look at them and say, like, really?
Yeah.
That's your question? Like, just stuff like that. And, I said, get out of here. Like, that's not even a question that there's an answer to. So, go ask someone else. And, just stuff like that. I can't remember off the top of my head anything in particular that I said to anybody from the press or anything like that. Or the next day the coach would come to me and, talk to me about what I had said. And because I don't believe I ever said anything about our coaches or anything, that they were never in my conversation that I had with any of the press.
Well, one of my favorites of all time would probably had to be, I would have to be, I would just say it, what not to do if you ever want to work in the media full time. Ron McLean asking Mike Milbury how he felt after losing in the Stanley Cup final. How do you feel right now?
Wow.
I remember Milbury looking at him like, and he said, "Are you fucking kidding?" And they had to bleep that. Milbury, I mean, talk about stupid. What's he going to say? I feel great because you know what? The boat I rented for 4 weeks, we're going to fish, and we got 4 girls coming with us. I got the beer supply for the next 5 weeks. I can't wait to get on there tomorrow morning. I was paying for it, so thank God I can get back in that boat tomorrow. Like, what are they going to say? Like, come up with something. Like, you guys have to listen to this. So, I mean, it is pretty funny about what we hear. And this goes on in all sports. Now, do you know of any players? Let's talk about some of the guys who use the media to get themselves moved, traded, maybe send management a message. I mean, let's think about it. The management does it. I know certain guys in managed positions that would leak things to the press just to see how the temperature was with the fans, with the media, how people respond. One of the guys was being thrown around as the Eric Lindros trade way back when. This goes on in all sports. I'm not just gearing in on the Leafs here, but can you recall anything like that in your day?
Well, other than maybe Harold, going out and saying that,
Yeah.
I'm not paying that guy any more money than he's making now or something, or, or we're going to get him the hell out of here. Or, I mean, he would say ridiculous things like that all the time.
Yeah.
I don't recall management saying a whole lot in the papers or any of the players. I know Ian Turnbull, he did his best because he had to get traded. He wanted to go to the U.S. I think he had some back tax problems here in Canada. So, but he did it a little differently. He said some things to the press, but he also sat in the chair with a glass of cognac in his hand at a restaurant when the brass was there and they were leaving at 10 to 11 and he was still sitting there. So, and then I think the next day he got traded to LA.
Well, or you can be, or another favorite was Alex McGillney, who really didn't pull any punches when he was talking to the press because the Leafs had lost a few in a row or something, and asked him how he was feeling. Right? Was that day? He goes, well, my hemorrhoids are acting up. Do you want to have a look and see how they are? Because they really are bothering me today. But again, what do you want him to say? It's beyond me sometimes. And you can take.
Well, I think now, Mike. I think the guys are a little bit smarter in the press and ask a little bit better questions. I mean, there's still some stupid questions that what kind of an answer do you expect to get from that question? But for the most part, they ask some questions that are reasonable. But back in our day, I mean, like you said, you just lost the game, and well, how do you feel? How the hell do you think I feel? Like we just lost. Like
I got a date with 3 stewardesses in an hour. Thank God, we're out of here.
Yeah.
They're only in town for the night. Thank God we lost. I can get out of here quick. Thanks, guys. I got to run.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing we talk about every week, we talk about the true measure of a player is on the road. And you've just touched on it, 7 in a row, the sweep in California for only the 3rd time ever. During my trip following the Leafs during the 18-19 season, they did it then also. That was the last time they did it. 12 wins in November. Who stood out to you through this period of this run of 16, during this 16-game run with 14 wins?
Well, I mean, obviously Campbell. I'd say number one. I mean, he's been spectacular pretty much every game. He's made, there's been games with the close ones where he's made like 4 or 5 spectacular saves. So I'd say he'd be the number one guy, especially with the workload that he's taken on with Mrazek hurt and Wall only getting a few starts. But in general, pretty much all of them. I love that third line, Kemp, Kasha. Those guys play extremely hard. They're good on the penalty kill. The fourth line has played pretty decent. The top 6, I mean, what can you say? They're all contributing. And, I mean, the defense, I thought was going to be a problem, and it still could be a problem down the road because there is a couple of young guys on that defense core, but they seem to be getting it down and realizing how they need to play and getting the job done.
Well, for me, it's the commitment to defense by the forwards. That's really caught my attention. I love the fact they're playing shutdown now rather than reserving it towards playoff time. I revert to Austin Matthews' comments. His goals will come. We all love the scoring in any sport. River hockey gets you to the dance, but simply stating it, the team who keeps it out of the net wins the prize.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. There's no question that they've done a heck of a lot better job in the last month of playing better defense and keeping the puck out of their net instead of trying to win 6-5 or 7-6 or whatever it might be. So give them a lot of credit. Give the coaches, give the players a lot of credit, and give especially Campbell, who's made some big saves when they. The thing is, Campbell, he's making those saves when they really need them, and I think that's the biggest part of how he's playing is that it's a 1-0 game, and the other team gets a 2-on-1. They get a great opportunity, but he comes up with a spectacular save, keeps it a 1-0 game. So he's making those saves when he needs to, not just when it's 5-1 or anything. He's making them when the games are close, and then all of a sudden they get 2 more, and then it's 3-0.
Well, it's the confidence he has in the forwards to come back and commit to the defensive part in their own end along with the D. So make that first save. Like most goalers will tell you, we can make the first one. It's the second and third and the rebound and the trailer that we always have trouble with when there's nobody there and all the guys are standing in center rights waiting to get a breakaway. So the D has
Yeah,
played, I think, exceptionally well as a result of that commitment from the forward. It's no longer they attempting those long stretch passes from their own zone as a breakout, with like they did for the last couple of years. The exit zone
yeah.
pass from most of the D has been the key, I believe. And it only stands to reason the more they do that, other teams are going to pinch harder, resulting in opening up that stretch pass when it is available,
Hmm.
like Muzz and Tamarna the other night before Bunting scored. So,
Yeah.
the thing about it is they aren't as predictable as a team anymore. Therefore, this is open up the ice a little bit, which is giving the stars a little bit more room, but also everybody's contributing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think finally the coaching staff probably got together and said, like, hey, we need to play a little bit differently. We can't be rely on that stretch pass time after time after time like we did last year in Montreal. We didn't make any adjustments. We kept doing the same thing over and over and over again. And it's like the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Well, that doesn't happen, right? So, they finally kind of made a commitment to come back and play good defensive hockey in their zone. And like I said, when you do that, you exit your zone cleanly and you tend to get more odd man situations at the other end of the rink than if you're trying to make those stretch passes all night and the forwards are up at the far blue line. Because, if it turns over, those three forwards are caught. But now that they're all back in the zone and they're making those little 10, 12-foot passes, bing, 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 out of the zone, they're coming with some speed and they're making things happen.
Well, we're 23 games in. We like what we're seeing. Hopefully they can build, and it's much easier to maintain the defensive portion it is keep the offense, because the offense can come, because if you're gifted offensively, it'll come your way. Anybody can play defense, but it's making that commitment. And it looks like the players have bought in. Now they're going to need it in the next couple of weeks because they got a tough month ahead of them, starting tonight with Colorado. They play the 4 Canadian
Yep.
teams over the next couple of weeks, including Minnesota, who are also hot. They have a trip also to Seattle at some point. So that Western swing is going to be back and forth twice. They've also got Tampa, St. Louis, throwing a couple other games in there. It's an active month, so there's no rest for the wicked. That's for sure as far as this goes.
They got a long rest during the Olympics. There'll be a few guys on this team that'll
That's
probably
true.
take part in the Olympics, but other than that, they got 3 weeks off. 3 weeks with no games. I'm sure they're going to have practices. Probably the third week, I would imagine they'll be back practicing, except for the guys that are playing in the Olympics, which I'm assuming. And my guess is there's probably going to be 2, maybe 3 guys, maybe 4 off the lead team that'll be playing in the Olympics. Maybe even 5.
Well, including the goalie.
Because you got to figure Nylander's going to play with Sweden, and you got to figure Matthews is going to play with the U.S. Marner, possibly Tavares, Riley, perhaps on the Canadian team. But other than that,
Jack Campbell.
well,
One guy you like to have rest.
maybe Kemp and Kasha. They're Czech, I believe, Czech Republic.
Yeah.
So they may end up playing for them too. So they may have more than that. But the rest of the guys are going to get 3 weeks off. So don't worry about time off. It's funny because I was thinking about that last night when I look at my son's schedule in the ECHL, and I'm looking at Trois Rivieres' schedule. Like they were just down in Manchester and a bunch of places down there. They played 2 games in 3 nights plus home. Now they're going to play this weekend in Florida. Like the travel in the ECHL is absolutely ridiculous. And I know Justin's team has 12 games this month, or 14 games, I think it is, the month of September. Very, very tough schedule. So, don't complain about the schedule, because if you look at the American League and the ECHL, and then they lost their 2 best defensemen who went up to Rochester yesterday. So you know what? That's the way it is in the ECHL. They're pretty lucky in the NHL that they charter. They have their own planes and They go,
Yeah.
they get their meals cooked for them. They get, I mean, when you think about it, and then you go and you look at the American League, which is not that much different than the ECHL. There's a lot of bus time and a lot of travel where you're playing one night, busing 8 hours and playing the next night, and then busing another 6 hours and playing the next afternoon, which is crazy.
It is, and we will watch obviously with a great interest over the next few weeks, starting with tonight with the
Mm-hmm.
return of Nazem Kadri, who's on a bit of a heater himself, playing for a contract as well.
Yeah.
That always seems to play out, and it's funny how it works in sports when there's a contract at the end of the rainbow that's sitting waiting for you. How your game elevates slightly, and the
Yeah.
guy left the Blue
Well,
Jays this week. Robbie Ray can thank the Blue Jays for that. You know what? That kills me. That's one main little pet peeve. They're going on. I know they always do this. They're on social media today thanking Robbie Ray. What the hell are they thanking him for? Like the Blue Jays, like for what? For doing his
they
job?
didn't win.
Well, the
Well,
Blue Jays, nobody take a chance from last year. The Blue Jays take a chance on him, surround him with the most dynamic offense probably the Blue Jays have ever had before previous to the World Series teams. He gets in around that lineup, has a great year as a result of those guys helping him out. Faded a little bit at the end of the year.
mhm.
Now he bolts for a big ticket, which is
Well,
fine.
that
But why be thanking him? It should be the other way around. There should be a full page ad in the Toronto Star and the Sun. Thank you, Toronto Blue Jays, for this. You just set my family up for
yeah,
life.
Robbie Ray should be going. Pete Walker and the Blue Jays, thank you very much for
Thank you
turning
very much.
my career around and getting me $100 and some odd million.
I know. I know that kills me. Like, and we're thanking him. I love all
Yeah,
that. I love that.
you know what? If you won the World Series, then you could thank them and say you were a big part of us winning the World Series. But that didn't happen. They didn't even make the postseason.
No, you
So
thank him with this thing
I
right
don't
here.
know why you're.
Right here with the thing right there in your right there goes on here. That ring.
Yeah,
That's how you thank him. Okay?
exactly.
That's how you thank him. Now, your favorite time of the week, Squid. Quote of the week.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go. So, in keeping with the Leafs winning ways, we thought this would be very appropriate. Here we go. The secret to keeping a winning streak going is to maximize the victories while at the same time minimizing the defeats. Let me say that again for you.
Yeah.
The secret to keeping a winning streak going is to maximize the victories while at the same time minimizing the defeats.
Yeah.
Positive.
I mean, it makes sense. Obviously, if you want to keep the streak going, you gotta maximize the wins and minimize the losses.
Well, put the wins.
But I think the biggest thing is that if you approach it a little differently, in that you don't lose 2 games in a row, and I think if you look at it that way, because you're going to win 2 or 3 in a row, and then you might lose one. But if you go all year and you never lose 2 games in a row, you're going to be in a pretty good spot because you are going to go again. They've been on that winning streak now, and I think it's 5 or 6 or 7 in a row. And yeah, you might lose if you lose tonight, but then you don't lose 2 in a row. So then they might go and win 3 in a row, lose 1, win 2 in a row, lose 1, win 4 in a row. So that's what can happen if you never lose 2 games in a row.
Well, what did we say last time? We had this when the streak came to the 5-game winning streak. You win 5 out of every 6 for the rest of the year. I think we'll be in good shape. I think we'll take that.
Yeah, I believe I'd be pretty happy with that.
I don't think there'd be too many complaints all around anywhere. So anyway, enjoy what we can, folks. But that's all we have for you for today. Every Wednesday, same time, same place. Don't forget to tune into our weekly podcast, Squid and the Ultimate Leafs Fan. Drops every Friday at 6 p.m. This week's guest, Sportsnet's Ken Reed, gives a very great insight into life behind the camera, or in front of the camera, pardon me, and an author and a very serious collector of hockey cards. So, man after my own heart with the collecting, and it's very interesting.
He's pretty goddamn funny too.
He sure is. He's a pretty funny guy, and he's pretty plugged in. So, anyway, have a listen to that. Yeah. As I said, drops Friday at 6 o'clock. Ken Reed from Sportsnet. Anyway, thanks everyone for listening. Enjoy the week, and we'll talk to you soon.